Hello YouTube, it's been a minute. It's been a long minute, like a whole year long minute. Well, this is your friendly tall giant Morris speaking. And in that 1 year, quite a number of things took place. One of them is that we had a chance to live with the Tekken 250 for quite a while. And we learned quite a number of things. And those things have to be explored point by point. So this won't be a short one. Sit back, relax, grab yourself a cup of coffee, yogurt, water, whatever, whiskey, you name it. I am not sponsoring any whiskey. See you in a moment. Welcome back. So, what we are going to start with are the general specifications of this particular motorcycle. Now, what we have here is a 223cc, or once they do all the physics and the conversion, you get a 250cc motorcycle. It runs on 17-inch rims, front and rear. These are spoked, although we do have other variations that have the cast iron rim that are tubeless, but the spoke rims are normally tube type. You won't get, it's difficult for you to get the tires that are actually tubeless. The second thing we address is what you're working with on the brakes. You have hydraulic brakes, front and rear, the larger one obviously being larger. And at the front, the suspension is upside down forks. They work really, really well off-road, and even just general cruising when you're on tarmac. And then you do have a digital dash at the front, very, very much digital, small, minimalistic, doesn't have too many complications. All you have are the usual trip A and trip B kind of platforms where you can easily address the mileage covered or kilometers covered if you're doing any kind of trip. So you need to have that information, a small clock, and that's it. On the tank is a 13-liter tank, and during our tests we discovered that this 13-liter tank will on average give you around 30 to 38 kilometers per liter, but I normally don't bother myself so much with that. And I'm going to look at the range that this tank can give you with the engine it is sitting on. And what I discovered for the most part, and also from other people who have actually owned the bike, is that you can actually get a range of from 300 kilometers to around 418 kilometers on one tank. So it all comes down to quite a number of variables that do affect fuel consumption and even the motorcycle's own efficiency on any kind of journey. It comes with a crash guard as standard, an engine guard, which is very good. It has helped in so many scenarios where the bike has fallen. And you also do get your luggage rack, 2 panniers and a top box. The top box is around 35 liters, not so big, but it's minimalistic for most people's needs. If you're just doing general commuting, etc., small things. The start is electric. An electric start is what you get. You have no kickstart. So one of the issues we found is that you always have to ensure that your battery is always good. Your battery is as good as possible for the most part. You don't want to have your battery running out, but it is an easy bike to actually jump start. So never get scared. You can actually just push it for a small distance on second gear and it will start up immediately, nothing to fear. The other thing some people might ask is the transmission type, which is a 6-speed running on a carburetor, and you're going to get around 17 horsepower on this engine. Some people will say it's 18, others will say 19 horsepower. I don't know. I feel that for the most part, those are probably sales figures for people who are trying to sell you the bike. But internationally, from even the factory itself, the 2022 and the 2023 models, that is 17 horsepower running at around, Yeah, it was 17 newton meters of torque. Is it enough torque? It is, if you know what you're doing with the bike, or if you know why you bought the bike, that is more than enough torque. Lonsin were gracious enough to provide an engine that is not threatening to most people, that you can actually work with. Not too much torque, not too threatening, but gear 1 and 2, and even 3, they're not gears to mess around with. That torque comes about in a very peculiar manner. You can actually pull wheelies on this bike. I've seen people doing wheelies on this bike. I wish I knew how to pull wheelies. That is going to happen very soon. We learn. You live and learn. You live and learn. The top speed for this particular bike that I have done is 120 kilometers per hour, and that felt difficult, is what I can say. It doesn't want to go up to those crazy top speeds. Others will say 140. Some people have actually gone up to 150, but that is down the slope or downhill. Again, also you can do 130 conceivably during like when you have like really perfect conditions. And perfect conditions would be you have a backwind, tire pressure is okay, you've removed the panniers, you've removed the top box, it's an early morning, there's not much resistance, it's not too hot, it's just nice and cool, you have a nice wonderful straight. There are several parameters that you can conceivably get to 130. However, the bike will cruise quite comfortably on 90 to 100, quite comfortably. You'll actually be able to enjoy your ride like that. The rear suspension runs on a monoshock, a fairly wonderful monoshock. It has a nice, clever actuator system that actually comes from the, you believe this, from the Yamaha XT660, I believe, should be the one. You can correct me in the comments. It looks exactly like the one, because even the backside of the Tekken actually looks like an XTZ, Yamaha XTZ 600 or 660. I'm not sure. Again, you can correct me in the comments. Those of us who have had the bike locally and also internationally, you know how that looks like. And then we have the brakes. I did mention about the brakes. They are disc brakes. Again, the bike borrows from quite a few other motorcycles. The brake pads at the front actually come from the Kawasaki, or you can use Kawasaki brake pads on this. I think specifically the Kawasaki 300, and the brake pads at the rear run with the Honda CBR 250 brake pads. Yeah, they fit there quite well. So those are some of the things we've discovered along the way as we talk about the general specifications of the bike. The 2023 model comes with a very cool and bright headlight. The previous models weren't as good, but they have gone up and improved it. Again, the 2023 model does also come with a windshield, a very tough windshield, 4 millimeters thick, I believe. And also, I believe I found out that it's the same windshield being used by the BMW guys. BMW F800 and F850 use the same windshield. Oh, fun fact. Lonsin are building BMW F850 and F800 engines, even the 750 engines. So they provided this engine based off some things they borrowed also from there. So it's a very, very reliable engine. And Lonsin have always been known for quite reliable engines. We have bikes all the way from the 90s that are still running up to date. The engine is a non-issue engine. It doesn't really complain or whatever. It's just oil changes. That is the actual main maintenance we've actually been doing on the bike for a whole year. Just regular oil changes. That's it. Oil changes at around 3,000 kilometers per oil change. Yeah, so it's been running good. Can't complain. Can't really complain. All the other lights, we do have handguards that have inbuilt turn signal lights. They are very sturdy. Several crashes down the line, they haven't really broken, just a few dings here and there. Very, very sturdy. The rear also runs on LED lights all through the entire bike. Brake lights, headlights, etc. Everything, just general LEDs. Yeah. On to the next thing. The next thing we want to discuss is something slightly controversial, but let's get to that. Now, in which category does this bike belong? Some have said sport, some have said sport naked. Quite literally, this is a crossover. It is the marriage between a dual sport bike and what I would say a street naked, or rather a supermoto. Yeah, this is what that is, because you can easily convert this into a supermoto. And if you change up the rim to the front to 19 front and probably 18 rear, and then it just behaves and becomes like a proper adventure bike. So it is a crossover adventure bike for the most part. Now let's talk about how the bike feels. I'm a tall guy. I'm like 6'2", and you can see my feet are firmly planted in the ground. For me, it's a fairly easy bike to work with because it only weighs around 134 kilos. That is nothing. It feels kind of like a dual sport bike. That is why it is in the crossover category, without it feeling like a dual sport bike. It wants to feel like a Benelli TRK 251, but it's not. Again, that's why it's a crossover bike. On tarmac, it handles really, really well. You can do very many lanes on it comfortably. It doesn't really give you that feeling that you're about to lose the rear and probably crash. No. You can really go like hard into corners on this bike, even with these tires. Off-roading, that is why it seems to come alive. It seems to have like a mind of its own. And since it's a crossover bike, it won't behave as well as a dual sport bike off-roading. Never get that confused. It does require you to fiddle around with only just one thing. Simply reduce your tire pressure and rip. That's it. It will be good to go. Kid you not. It performs really, really well off-road. Yes, there are situations like places where that are too rocky, where the 17-inch front rim will actually tell you that, hey, I am not a dual sport bike. You need to approach such things with care. So again, it's a bike that will make you happy off-roading, but again, it's a bike that is also telling you to work with it. Work with me. This is what I am. I am not what you think you are. This is exactly what I am. So work with me. But in general, on tarmac, it will work really, really well. And by really well, I mean that you can go for up to 200, 300 kilometers without stopping, without feeling fatigue. For tall guys, it will be like, hey, you're so tall. How does it work? Well, that's how it works. That's how it looks. My leg comfortably fits where the fairing begins and ends. It just fits there very nicely. And I love the way the bottom part of it, that is the gear lever, is set. It doesn't really bother my legs so much. Even on this side, even on the right side, the same thing with the braking and everything. It's really well set. The seat is low. If you're 5'8", 5'9", 5'7", you can actually easily step on the ground and work with it. Now, the rear monoshock adjustable. It doesn't have all those complicated electronic systems that you can actually adjust. You can actually adjust it in a very manual way. You have to open the side cover on the right, access the air box, and slightly above the air box pipe coming from the carburetor, you can push in a flat head screw, and with the mallet, just tick tack, tick tack, tick tack, knock on it, and that is the way you adjust that monoshock. And in that one year, I have found the perfect blend for the kind of feeling you're going to get at the rear. If you know you're going to be carrying things or carrying load, either on tarmac or off-road, you're going to be carrying a pillion now and then. When you adjust this rear monoshock, make sure that you leave 8 threads up the top empty on the monoshock. Just that tick tack, tick tack, tick tack. They will turn around. I believe should be clockwise. If not, you can correct me in the comments. It should be clockwise. Even though I think it's anti-clockwise. Either way, you knock the lock and it kind of raises the bike a little bit. You leave 8 threads at the top. It's a perfect blend for when you're knowing you're going to be off-roading, carrying things, carrying a pillion. Now and then you're on tarmac, mostly on tarmac, a few times off-road. That's a perfect blend. Now for a more cushy, swingy ride that responds well to the changes off-road, you're doing a lot of off-roading, make sure at the top you leave 6 threads empty. That will make the suspension of the monoshock quite soft, nice and responsive. You can do jumps, you can do anything, but you can't pillion easily because it will go down, and usually the rear tire kind of hits the top part, and the top part is usually the silencer for the exhaust. You will feel it, you hear it actually just scraping up on that. So that is how the bike is set up. That is how the bike feels. That is what you should do for the bike if you want it to feel comfortable when you're riding for your own specific use. The front is not adjustable, but the upside down forks do respond very well. I don't know how they made it for factory. I don't know what kind of spring they're using inside there, but it's really well set for managing any off-road bumps and everything. The moment you just rip, the bike kind of just floats along whatever it is that you're bumping through, and you'll almost feel nothing. Comes the next thing we want to look at. How does the bike feel standing up? Some of you have been wondering about that. Can you stand up on it off-road? Maurice, you're very tall. Aren't you going to break the bike? Let me demonstrate. This is me standing up on the bike. Oh, wait, I was a rock there. Oh, the ground was soft. Hold on. Hopefully I don't kill myself on recording this video. Well, that would be as epic as... Oh, the ground is really soft. Ooh, yeah, the ground is very soft. Yeah, so let me look for somewhere else to do that. But you can actually stand on it. Hold on. Can I stand on it here? I believe I can. There you go. That's how it looks like standing on it. You can actually stand on the side stand. It's very easy. It's not so difficult to work with the side stand. The side stand is pretty strong. This is your standing position when you're off-roading. You can see where your knees go, you know, where the other knees go. Your hands will be somewhere here, like for a tall guy, this is where my hands are. I believe maybe they should be here, maybe slightly bent, I don't know. But you can always bend your knees, do jumps, etc. And this won't like hit you so hard and everything. So yeah, you can actually do some pretty funny antics with the bike. So it's really cool that way. Oh, yeah, that's that. So moving on. We've already discussed quite a few number of things, and there are now things that I would call concerns, or things that we discovered that are a bit, yeah, they're a bit left right, is what I can say. And these ones are primarily what I call manufacturer issues. Now, the first issue realized was on the front end. Now, the front end, by that I mean the speedo cable. Now, the speedo cable and its attachment on the front mudguard is a bit loose. And by a bit, I mean it comes off and the front tire just basically scrapes against it to oblivion. And a few users have actually lost uh, the ability to find out how fast they are moving, simply because the speedo cable was chewed by the front wheel. And I mean chewed, like properly shredded. So what we've had to do, simple local solutions, is grab some cable ties and basically zip that thing in place, or zip tie the particular cable in place. And that should also be done on the side of the hydraulic brake fluid cable. Same thing, zip tie it to the mudguard properly, and it should stay there for quite a long time. The second thing that we realized was an issue was the suspension system at the rear. At the very bottom of it, that actuator system, it has a 3-point linkage. And we realized quite a bit late that they use, number one, needle bearings, and number two, from factory, Lonsi, not Lonsi, Fuego. I hope you're listening. Those bearings are not greased well enough. They are not. They are really not. At some point around 1,000 kilometers, the suspension system feels hard. It just knocks and you just feel do, 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 like a proper thud. Upon further inspection, you discover all your needle bearings are kaput. The entire bearing system is gone. They are not easy to come by in Kenya. I don't know how easy they are to come by in other areas, in other parts of the world. Maybe they're easy to find in your own country, which would be good. Needle bearings, they have specific numbers. Yeah, I'm going to run the numbers in the video, either here or somewhere here. I'll put those details there of the actual numbers of those needle bearings. But our own local solution is we remove all of them, the entire thing. We only leave the middle or the center metallic sleeve, and we get rubber bushes. That's what we call them. Rubber bushes done and fix them in there. Problem solved. And those ones last there for a long time. The only thing you have to do is just grease the metallic sleeve in there properly. And I said, close up the entire system and you are done. The other tiny manufacturer faults or manufacturer issues we found is with the left and right panels. They don't close up. They don't close up at the end very well, at the very top. I think whoever was designing it missed the design by probably 3 millimeters. And so the small connection doesn't make it all the way to the end. So it kind of stops there. So this part is always like hanging out. You can easily remove it. Yeah. And the fourth thing is to do with the battery. I know you're trying, Fuego, hey, I'm talking to you. I know you're trying to save costs, but having a battery that has several cells inside there not having enough acid is a problem, because eventually we come to find out that the charge normally runs out. You come to find that some of the cells are dry, there's no acid in there, and we wonder why. So some of us have had to replace batteries or do refills at the risk of being stuck somewhere in the bush. So that is something that is slightly undesirable. Other than that, the fifth issue is just to do with the panniers. Especially the left side pannier. The lock is not so good, but both locks aren't as good as you'd expect. So most of us have had to either use bungee cords to keep them in place, or there are friends of mine who have actually bolted the pannier directly to the mounting frame, which is okay. If you don't need to remove the panniers now and then, you can bolt it on there permanently. Yeah, that's it. And the sixth thing should be the turn signals. The turn signals that come from factory, number one, are smoked. They are smoked. They are not easy to see during the day, especially. They're not easy to see at all. We've had to replace ours with slightly brighter ones, but if the factory is listening and they can bring in bikes that don't have smoke turn signals, front and rear, that would be good. Visibility, safety, safety, safety. For the front, it's okay because we have the handguard that has an inbuilt turn signal, very, very bright, can be seen during the day. But the other tiny one is also smoked, can actually be seen clearly. So we need clear turn signals at all times. Those would be beautiful. Other than that, that's it. That's it. The bike is just good to go for the most part. If you can get over those tiny things, and I call them tiny because they're not things that have actually like made me angry or wonder why this thing is happening like this, but that's it. Just that. An easy bike to live with. Moving on, the next thing we want to discuss would be the general maintenance of the bike. The bike is very easy to maintain. Let me explain why. Now, most people would assume that, especially coming from smaller bikes, and by smaller I mean 150, 200 cc, blah, blah, blah. You might assume coming up to 250, then you have quite a lot of costs to work with. I'll give you a fun fact. I used to own a 125 cc Bajaj Boxer. And quite literally, that thing was more expensive to maintain than this one because everything I've had to do on this bike that is significant has been oil changes only. I'm changing that oil at 3,000 kilometers. That is not as significant as how many times I had to change oil when I used to own a smaller bike, or how many times I had to change front and rear bearings, how many times I had to fix electrical issues, how many times I had to do quite a good number of things on that motorcycle. This one, the only issues with it are just oil changes, oil changes, oil changes. That's all. Everything else, unless you crash into something, yeah. Like seriously, I haven't had to do much on this bike. Maintenance, almost maintenance-free bike. The only maintenance, heavy maintenance you're going to do is when the bike maybe clocks 20,000 or 50,000 kilometers. That's it. That's it. And at 20,000, maybe it's just tappets adjustment or tappets check. Yeah, that's it. It's not much at all. It's an oil-cooled engine. It will do long distances very well. Let me first of all address that question. Some people have been asking that. It does long distances well. We've done 10-day tours on like 2 occasions where we've covered more than 2,000 kilometers, actually 3,000 kilometers on each occasion. And there is nothing we've had to do on these bikes. It has been a mixture of tarmac and off-road, crazy, stressful off-road. The craziest one we did was when we were climbing up Mount Kenya all the way to Lake Ellis. That was pretty high altitude. I thought they wouldn't do well in very, very high altitude where the air is very thin, but I was surprised. The bike just keeps going, and that means, and I mean above 3,800 meters above sea level. I don't know what that is in feet. Wait, I'm putting the conversion here. Hopefully you see that. Oh wait, almost forgot. The other manufacturer flaw we've come across is the stock chain. The stock chain is horrible, really. Let me not lie to you, it's really horrible. It's only good for 2,000 kilometers, that's it, and then you have to remove it because it keeps stretching and not holding onto the drive set really well. The front cog and the rear cog, yeah. So we've had to go for the larger, more powerful DID chains, the 520, I believe, yeah. And then we've had to remove a few links, but that's it. After we put on those chains, bam, case closed. Yeah, before I forget, there is one other thing I almost forgot, and that would be the tire pressure. Always make sure you do your tire pressure checks on that bike. It runs, front is normally 28 for the most part, and the rear runs at 32 or 30, depending on where you're going. 28 at the front for tarmac, 30 tarmac at the rear. Just general tarmacking. If you're going off-road, then rear goes to 28, front goes to 26 psi. That's basically it. And then the last thing you do on maintenances for the bike, for the Tekken, is that always do the nuts and bolts check as much as possible. Yeah, some things do fall off. It's a Chinese bike. It does have a fair bit of vibrations, but not vibrations that you're like, oh, I can't live with this. No, you can actually live. They're not like bad. I've come across bikes with horrible vibrations. This you get to live with. This is okay. So yeah, basically that is that. That is the general outline or the general review of the Tekken 250. Now, also, the other thing, or the very, this is the last thing, very last thing. The 2023 models do come in a variety of color ranges. The engine is still the same. It's still the RE250 engine made by Lonsin. We have different color variations of the bikes. We have green on black, orange on black, lime green, like this lime green, but that lime green may have been discontinued. I don't know why, it's just a color. Fuego, I don't know why you stopped that one. It's a wonderful color. I loved it. But yes, there are several color variations. The current models also do come with automatic start. You can get these bikes, especially what we call the Power Tekken, as labeled from Nairobi Power Bikes. You can get them currently at 315,000. That means that is the windshield, all the boxes and everything, tip-top shape, new as new, wonderful bike, and all the things I've talked about. Those are the only little things that you need to maybe change or modify to be able to live with this bike comfortably. But in general, it is a stress-free bike designed for the beginner adventure biker who just wants something that looks good, feels good, rides well, stress-free. We live here in the coast. Someone was mentioning something about, oh, rust, the bike is going to rust. No, it doesn't. They did a very good job with the paint job, with all the linkages and everything. It does not rust. Whether in the coast or in the highlands, it will be good, you'll be fine. You can actually do crazy things on it off-road. You can do jumps, you can go over rocks, you can go wherever. Just remember, change your tire pressure. Again, just remember, it's a 17-inch front, 17-inch rear rims, so it won't behave the same way as a dual sport bike. But all the same, because of the upside down front forks and this very clever actuator system at the rear monoshock, it behaves in a very peculiar. And when you do come across twisties, oh, feel free to lean, especially if you went and change your tires into like really good premium rubber, Dunlops, Bridgestone. You're going to enjoy it. You're really going to enjoy it. It does not misbehave. It won't misbehave. Long distances, places you encounter crosswinds, because of the way these things are designed. I don't know how it catches wind or funnels wind to the engine or to the underside of the bike itself, but you actually don't feel as if crosswinds are really affecting you much, you know. It doesn't really get battered too much by crosswinds. You will feel a decline in engine power, but in general, it just cuts through. You know, it's not like really heavy like the Benellis or the BMWs, but I don't know. I found it peculiar. Maybe it's my weight. I don't know. Or maybe those times my bike was loaded, but in general, in crosswinds, it doesn't really get affected so much by crosswinds. You might feel them, but the bike tends to, the way the ergonomics of the bike, the design of the bike itself, just, I don't know how they did it, but yeah, it keeps crosswinds away. So get a bike. You will not be disappointed. I kid you not. Bye. Now, I was almost putting away the camera and I forgot to mention some very wonderful people. One is Duncan. Duncan, thank you so much for the drone. I've been using his drone to do some of the shots that you've actually seen. I'd also like to thank Yuda. He owns or he runs what we call the graphic shop or graphic station. That is a place sometimes I go to sit down and do edits, and also provide for me the wireless microphones I've been using, some camera kits. Yeah, he's a very generally nice fella. The entire team at the graphic station, that is Curtis, Khan, thank you guys so much. From when we began this, recording the preludes and the previews from a long time ago. I think you've seen them running. We did an amazing job. I hope we can do the same for even more. Maybe there'll be more collaborations coming up eventually or very soon. The other person who is not here is Triffy. Triffy and I, that's my wife, we've been doing quite a lot when it comes to adventures, riding around with motorcycles and everything. It's been a hard year for her since 2022, but she's been my rock up to this point in time and also for the future. So you'll be seeing her more and more in these videos. Hopefully everything will pan out wonderfully. And the grounds that I'm on, it's a wonderful camping ground that is located here in Diani. Whenever you need to camp here in Diani and do your camping, you're a biker, you're doing adventures, whatnot, I'll leave their link in the description, and I'll also leave their contacts right there. You can always come here, camp, wonderful facilities. You can cook for yourself, you can pitch your tent. Security is also wonderful, so nice place to be. And then last but not least, we have wonderful people, Nairobi Power Bikes. Nairobi Power Bikes. They are the ones that afforded us these bikes for the entire year. They have been very patient with us through all the trials and tribulations. Most people know what exactly we've been going through, and they have been nothing but gracious, despite the few challenges that are there or have been there. So thank you guys so much from us and the family and everyone else involved. We thank you. So if you want to get your bikes, get them from Nairobi Power Bikes. If you're anywhere else in the country, I don't know who your retailers are, high five to them. The Tekken is an amazing bike. It's a really, really amazing bike. So more is coming. There'll be more adventures up and down, me showing you trails, trainings, even more motorcycle reviews. You never know. So keep yourself here. Keep it locked. Bye.